Welcome to the Broadway.com show, filmed in New York City's historic Brill Building. I'm Ryan Lee Gilbert.
And I'm Paul Wontorek. This week we chat with John Legend, Sara Bareilles, and Brandon Victor Dixon as they prep for Jesus Christ Superstar Live, hang out with Joshua Jackson and the stars of Broadway's Children of a Lesser God, and more.
And later, we sit down with Oscar and Tony winner Mark Rylance, who fills us in on his Broadway bow in Farinelli and the King. But first, let's get started with the news. What's the buzz, Paul?
Love movie musicals? So do we. The Greatest Showman, which has earned over $160 million, making it the fourth most successful movie musical ever, will be released digitally on March 20th. Could a Broadway stage adaptation be far behind? Certainly an Oscar win on Sunday night for the show's viral sensation song, This Is Me, written by Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, and performed by Broadway favorite Kayala Settle, could help get that in motion. Meanwhile, Stephen Schwartz, whose Wicked is expected on the big screen in 2019, is writing a new movie musical about the life of Hans Christian Andersen, which also has its eye on Broadway. No word on a timeline for that film. The Hollywood hottie Ansel Elgort is in talks to star.
Hans Christian Andersen's stories would make great musicals.
They already are. The Little Mermaid, The Snow Queen, which is Frozen, and The Ugly Duckling, which is basically like every musical.
Not this one. Ansel Elgort is not an ugly duckling. Marissa Jarrett Winokur, who won the 2003 Tony for her performance as Tracy Turnblad in Hairspray, was crowned the champion of CBS's first season of Celebrity Big Brother. Winokur was selected the winner by a jury that included all of the previously eliminated house guests, and took home that $250,000 grand prize with her house BFF Ross Matthews by her side. And in other fabulous female Tony winner news, Kristen Chenoweth will succeed John Lithgow as the star of the upcoming second season of NBC's anthology comedy series Trial and Error. Chenoweth will play an heiress named Lavinia Peck Foster, who is accused of murdering her husband and stuffing him inside a suitcase. The premiere date for the season 2 of Trial and Error will be announced at a later date.
I already know she didn't do it. Kristen is 4'0". How would she stuff someone in a suitcase?
She travels by bubble. She can do anything.
Now here's some diva casting that is solid. As a rock, Valerie Simpson of the legendary R&B duo Ashford and Simpson is getting ready to hold down the Cook County Jail when she takes over the role of Mama Morton in Chicago on March 12th. Also joining the company at the Ambassador Theater that night is Chaz Lamar Shepard in the role of slick, suave, sexy Billy Flynn. Shepard made his Broadway debut as Harpo in The Color Purple on Broadway, and has also been seen as Curtis, as in Curtis Was Supposed to Love Me, in the national tour of Dreamgirls. Also featured in Chicago, Broadway's longest-running American musical, are Bianca Marroquin as Roxy Hart, Amra Faye Wright as Velma Kelly, Evan Harrington as Amos Hart, and Arlo as Mary Sunshine.
Director Michael Arden's acclaimed Broadway revival of Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Flaherty's Once on This Island will launch a North American tour in the fall of 2019. The touring production will play Los Angeles' Ahmanson Theater, with additional cities and casting to be announced at a later date. Of course, you can still catch Once on This Island, Broadway.com's top show of 2017, at the Circle in the Square Theater. Meanwhile, the first international production of the Tony-winning musical Dear Evan Hansen will begin performances in March 2019 at Toronto's Royal Alexandra Theatre. The original Broadway production team, including composers Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, writer Stephen Levinson, and director Michael Greif, will reunite to launch the production.
Off-Broadway audiences are chanting Jerry, Jerry, and have demanded a longer run for Jerry Springer the Opera at Pershing Square Signature Center. The Stuart Lee Richard Thomas musical about the talk show phenomenon will now play through April 1st. Replacing Terrence Mann for the extension is Lucille Lortel Award winner Matt McGrath as Springer, joining Will Swenson as his buddy Satan. In other off-Broadway news, Juan Castaño and Atu Blankson Wood will headline Lucy Thurber's Transfers at the Lucille Lortel Theater starting April 5th. Emma Gear will join Tatiana Maslany, Blair Brown, and Susan Porfor in Tracy Letts' Mary Page Marlowe at Second Stage this June, and At Home at the Zoo has been extended for a second time at Signature Theater. That means Katie Finneran, Robert Sean Leonard, and Paul Sparks will now dig into Edward Albee's one-act's home life and the zoo story for an extra week through March 25th.
Dariush Kashani, who was last seen in Lincoln Center Theater's Tony-winning play Oslo, has joined the cast of David Yazbek and Itamar Moses' new Broadway musical, The Band's Visit. Kashani took over the lead role of Tufik, the conductor of the Egyptian police band at the center of the show's story, on March 1st, replacing original cast member Tony Shalhoub, who has taken a temporary leave from the production to film the second season of Amazon's The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. But Shalhoub is scheduled to return to The Band's Visit for select performances, beginning in May at the Ethel Barrymore Theater.
When we come back, we head downtown to get the scoop on Pulitzer finalist Jordan Harrison's new play, The Amateurs, meet the new stars of Sweeney Todd, and more. This week on Broadway.com, the Phantom of the Opera vlogger Ali Ewald shares some amazing advice in her final episode. Amy and the Orphans' fresh-faced Jamie Brewer strikes a pose, and more.
Hey, I'm Casey Levy.
And I'm Patty Murin.
And you're watching the Broadway.com show.
Welcome back. NBC's upcoming broadcast of Jesus Christ Superstar live in concert airs on Easter Sunday. We recently caught up with John Legend, Sarah Bareilles, and more to see why this take on Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber's timeless rock musical is going to be heaven for audiences.
I'm playing Jesus Christ in Jesus Christ Superstar. I mean, what could be more exciting? It's such a great show, such an iconic character to play. I'm excited to be part of it, glad they asked me to do it.
It's a brave project. It's a beautiful show that I think audiences, if they're not familiar with it, I think it will really resonate. It's very timely. It's this incredible historical story that has, interpreted through the lens of the humanity of all of these characters, and I feel very privileged that I get to be in the room.
Particularly in the rehearsal room, it's almost as if you're reintroduced to the music as it was originally experienced, and there is a directness and extraordinary artistry in the way these actor performers are doing this, and it gives you the thrill of hearing this fantastic score for the first time.
Jesus Christ Superstar's performers and directors shared why this live broadcast is going to be one for the ages.
It's a kind of fabulous moment of utter recklessness to release this extraordinary beast, live through a television screen, with all of the elements that are coming to bear in this particular version of it, which involve making music front and center as well as the emotional narrative, and a live audience, rocking it out with Jesus.
One of the things that we were laughing about last night is there's this is probably one of the few venues where you get to place John Legend and Alice Cooper together in the same space as performers, and yet that kind of polarized opposite is what makes it so endearing as a project to see them play off against each other.
This show in particular will work well in this format. I think this is a confluence of elements, Easter, this passion play, and the way it's written and designed that I think will make the telecast, I think it's going to be probably the best one of these live musical telecasts to date, because I just think what they've learned as producers and what they're bringing together here will make it one of the most dynamic experiences so far.
It's been so much fun to watch the evolution. Each one is so different from the one before, and I really appreciate that they're trying to sort of crack the code and to do something like Sound of Music, and then to do something like Jesus Christ Superstar. Like, what a range! Like, what a love for the medium of theater. What a love for the intention of bringing these musicals and this music into the homes of people who don't live around the corner from Broadway. It's it's really beautiful.
Mark Medoff's Tony-winning drama, Children of a Lesser God, returns to Broadway this spring in a new revival directed by Kenny Leon. Joshua Jackson and Lauren Ridloff star at the centre of this remarkable love story that sparks at a school for the deaf. We chatted with the cast and director Leon about this new production.
Children of a Lesser God is about a young woman named Sarah Norman who has lived at a deaf school since she was a child, and she meets a teacher that she falls in love with. And the story is about the two of them learning to navigate their love.
The idea of representation and the idea of allowing people who have been cut out by the society that they live in and giving them, for lack of a better word, voice. It just so happens that the world and the play caught up to each other.
It's so relevant right now in our society, in this political climate, in this generation. Everyone has their own opinions and beliefs and values, and everyone believes they're right. And I think this play emphasizes that we really need to start listening, and I think that's a good reminder for everyone right now.
Mark Medoff, 40 years ago, he wrote a play. When he wrote it 40 years ago, it was really just letting the hearing community know what was up with the deaf community. And now we, in another generation, get to see what that play means to us. It's about how we really don't listen to each other, how we talk over each other, and beneath all that is a beautiful love story, so you always want to get a good love story in there.
Before she was cast in the revival, Ridloff was hired to tutor Leon in sign language. Children of a Lesser God marks both Ridloff and Jackson's Broadway debuts.
You know, that was a spiritual intervention, you know, with me working with Lauren as my ASL teacher. And I was like, wow, I kept being exposed to how great she was and how much presence she had and how much charisma.
It feels unreal. On the way here today, I was just breathing it in and looking around me at Times Square. I can't believe this is happening.
I mean, to come to Broadway is on every actor's bucket list, but to bring something like this, it's an amazing honor feeling. I mean, it's just overwhelming.
I think that when people see this play, what they're going to see is a love story. It is a sweet reminder to look at the people in their own lives and accept them for who they are.
Pulitzer finalist Jordan Harrison is premiering his new play, The Amateurs, about a ragtag group of pageant players attempting to outrun the Black Death in 14th century Europe at Off-Broadway's Vineyard Theatre. Starring a talented troupe of stage favorites including Michael Cyril Creighton, Kyle Beltran, Quincy Tyler Bernstein, and Greg Keller, The Amateurs is a bold, fourth-wall-breaking experience about the purpose of art and the role of the artist in times of disaster. We recently spoke with Harrison and Creighton about the play and why audiences will want to tag along with these medieval performers.
The Amateurs is about a group of 14th century pageant players trying to outrun the Black Death, and they're performing the morality play Noah's Flood. And as they watch the people around them die, they're sort of inspired to invent the first human character.
It is deceptively simple as far as the storyline, but so full of gravitas and sort of beauty and intricate sort of details that as a whole piece, it is not simple. It is an epic monster.
It's fitting because the play is about this traveling group of players, and we assemble this cast of like the usual suspects of downtown theater. There's this dimension in which they're playing themselves, and a lot of the cool special effects of the play are actor operated, so they really become these people dragging their theater cart around in front of us.
This production's players portray multiple characters. In fact, Creighton takes on the role of playwright Harrison himself.
Playing a version of the playwright is a little daunting. We did cut my hair and shave off my beard, so I would be more playwright-like. It's daunting, but it's also really exciting because Jordan is a very interesting person. It's been really wonderful to sort of observe him in rehearsals and sort of take what I can from his personality and meld it with my own idea of what the performance is.
When people walk out of my plays, they're usually like filled with questions and debates. I do like the thought that they might leave thinking about how human beings became as three-dimensional as we are now, that it didn't always feel the same way to be inside the skull of a human being, like that the notion of the self is something that evolved over time and in response to things happening.
The conversation doesn't end here in the theater. The conversation goes out with you at the bar or on the street. So I think it's gonna start really healthy, interesting conversations, and I think you'll never know what this play is about until you do, you know?
Stephen Sondheim and Hugh Wheeler's Sweeney Todd tells the story of a demon barber who collaborates with a conniving pie shop owner on a quest for revenge. Tom Sesma and Sally Ann Triplett are currently playing the lead roles of Sweeney and Mrs. Lovett in a thrilling, immersive off-Broadway production. We headed down to the pie shop to get a taste of what excites them about taking on these larger-than-life musical theatre roles at the intimate Barrow Street Theatre.
You know, I saw the production last July. I think like most people in the theater, I know Sweeney Todd like the back of my hand, just from years of listening to it, reading the score, the liner notes along with listening to it. And as I was watching this production, it's so different that emotionally I was unprepared for anything that happened next. I was on the edge of my seat going, what is he going to do? What is she going to do? I had no idea. And it was one of the most exciting, I think one of the most exciting theatrical experiences I've ever had.
This production, of course, is unlike any other production of Sweeney Todd or unlike any other production of most shows. The fifth element for me, and I'm sure for all of us, is that first night where people are just literally inches away. You can smell them. It's sort of slightly verging on horror, I guess. But then in amongst all that, you have people that are just looking for love.
Though Sesma and Triplett are playing ruthless characters, it's a total love fest backstage.
From day one, we've sort of been on the same page. We have the same crazy, inappropriate sense of humor. We both work in pretty much the same way. I love it.
We have a very similar sense of humour. And I feel like we work in the same way. We have the same pattern of working. Couple of steps forward, one step back, like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to be any good at this. And we're kind of, I feel like we're kind of holding hands and walking towards it at the same pace. He's a beautiful, wonderful, amazing man, and I'm very lucky that he is my Sweeney.
This production of Sweeney Todd is also known for the delicious pie and mash served prior to each performance. We asked Sesma and Triplett if they recommend the pre-show meal.
The pies that you have beforehand are nothing like pie mash that you would have at home. Pie mash at home is like kind of like baby food, really. But here, they're 5-star. They are so delicious. I could have eaten 4.
Oh my God, do I recommend the pie? Yeah, we all came to see the show a couple of weeks ago. To see this wonderful cast that is actually leaving, Hugh Pinero and Carolee Carmello. And I had the pie. I think I died a little. It was so delicious. I'm hoping to have another one soon. I don't know.
When we return, stage and screen royal Mark Rylance tells us all about Broadway's Farinelli and the King.
One of the most celebrated actors of his generation, Oscar winner and 3-time Tony winner Mark Rylance is back on Broadway in Farinelli and the King, written by his longtime collaborator and wife, Claire Van Kampen. I sat down with the actor to talk about his Broadway return and what's on the horizon. Mark, thank you so much for coming here and doing this. How is it going over at the Belasco Theater, your Broadway home?
Oh yeah, I suppose it is, yeah. It's going really well, really well. Very warm audiences, and some of the cast go out at the beginning, you know, and talk with the audience, because we like to feel people to feel welcomed and feel they're in the same room with us. And they're meeting a lot of people coming back for the 3rd or 4th or even 5th time.
Wow.
I mean, I say a lot, they're meeting some people who are doing that. But there's a very embracing feeling from the audience.
Well, once again, the audience is on stage with you, just like with your Shakespeare double bill. Mm-hmm. How does that affect you on stage? Because I feel like sometimes you're really getting some energy from the people who are on stage with you.
It's a bit like shooting a close-up and a wide shot at the same time in a film. So it keeps you on your toes, you know. You're aware that there are people very near as we are now, and there are people who are very far away. So you need to be real for both of those groups of people, kind of essential and simple for the people far away, and obviously loud enough and expressive enough, and true enough for the people up close.
How do you find your way into a character that's mad, that has mental illness?
It's not difficult for myself, but you say the things that are there to be said and do the things that are there to be done, and then you connect with those needs, those desires, and if you are a shy person, or if you're quite self-critical as I am, you immerse yourself in the person's needs.
How does it feel for you to be that close to such magnificent singing?
It shakes me. It actually physically shakes me, and one's reminded that sound is a penetrating force, that it can. There was old commercials where they shattered crystal glasses, a high note from a good singer. But it literally shakes the cells of my body, because the vibration is so intense. It's quite emotional, actually. It's quite an emotional feeling. Different than being on a roller coaster, but similar in some way. You feel you're having a physical sensation, as well as the tune being very beautiful and emotional. But you get, after many hundreds of performances, you get used to the tunes, even great tunes. Though actually still some of them move me, these are so beautiful. But what never loses its power is the actual vibration, and the reminder that we are all just made up of vibrating cells.
Do you relate to the king as an outsider? He's French, he's in Spain, and you grew up in America, but you're British, and then you went back. I'm wondering if there's any kind of personal relationship that you feel about that.
Yeah, my mother was always an outsider. She was always drawn to alternative and outside interests and causes and things like that, and I've inherited that from her. And you're right, maybe it was to do with us being emigrants and immigrants. And so, yes, I was always aware that I was an Englishman in America when I lived in Milwaukee and up in Connecticut. And then, much to my surprise, when I went back to London, thinking I was going home to my homeland, I was very American. They considered me very American, and I had deep American attitudes. America is much more keen on new ideas. The English are wary of new ideas, that the old ideas have lasted so long because they're good ideas, why change them? But America feels part of its deep character, I think, is the embracement of progress and new ideas.
Do you feel in doing this play, which your wife wrote, and it's her first produced play, and it feels to me like it was a dream come true for her to have the play produced. Do you feel like you...
For anyone, huh?
Well, for anyone, really, yes. But to have your first play produced, and then on Broadway as well, and in the West End, that you got to experience this sort of journey together and do it together. Is that fun for you to do?
Yeah, we've always done that.
You're long-time collaborators, of course.
Yeah, we've been married 29 years now. And from the start, we were always thrilled by imagining different kind of theatrical events and going to the theatre, and then we've been lucky enough, and in those days we just made up our own things and lived hand to mouth to a certain degree, because our own things were not necessarily mainstream or popular, and so it's been an interesting progression towards finding people like Sonia Friedman, who supports our work so thoroughly, and building up our own experience and our knowledge and our attraction to reach more people with something that we consider beautiful or funny or fulfilling.
Speaking of reaching a lot of people, soon after Farinelli and the King ends its limited engagement, Ready Player One will open in theaters.
Oh yeah.
This couldn't be more different from Farinelli and the King, which has no amplification and candlelight and is very organic, and then you have this very computerized, very studio-heavy film. Tell me about working on that.
It has a lot of motion capture, which is, and Steven, being one of the great classic American directors, can make a film like Bridge of Spies or like The Post, which is a very classic, traditional film in the form of Billy Wilder and all that kind of, with moving cameras and everything, quite classic and natural. But he's also very fascinated by technology and what can be done as we move towards simulation of life through technology.
You have an interesting history with Steven Spielberg, don't you? Where you were offered a film and turned it down a long time ago, and now you seem to be his go-to actor. You've done several things with him.
He has a number of go-to actors that he works with. I think Tom Hanks is much more, has the rights to that title than I do. We've become very good friends. I love film. I haven't done so much film, but I've always gone to lots and lots of films. And so we have a shared love of old films and new films and all that. But yes, I did turn him down when I was 27.
And that led you to more theatre work, didn't it?
It was because it was a theatre project I was very keen to do.
You were deciding between. Yeah. Tell me, how excited are you to return to Shakespeare's Globe and do Othello with Andre Holland this summer?
Very, very excited, particularly to work with Andre, who's just a wonderful actor and a lovely man. And I think he's going to be a very moving Othello.
Well, we have to get going, but before we do, what will you be doing on Oscar night this year?
I'm actually going to be playing Eiley Ball at the Belasco Theatre. There's a group of actors down doing a play called Hanged Man in New York at the moment, and one of them has been in a company with me before, and they're coming down to challenge us to an Eiley Ball tournament in the theatre, which is a game we play backstage.
So you'll just be cheering on your Dunkirk colleagues in your mind, you won't be watching the broadcast?
No, I don't think I'll be watching it, no.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for coming in. You're wonderful in Farinelli and the King.
Thanks. Yeah, I think we have 4 weeks left, and yeah, it's a really unique, unusual piece. I've never been in anything like it before. And we're having a very nice time. The audience is really propelling us into more humor and more depths and experiences in the play. So we're having a very nice time with it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
Good.
When we come back, a look at Caissie Levy performing the new Frozen tune, Monster.
Hey, this is Jake Shears, currently in Kinky Boots, and you are watching the Broadway.com show.
Thank you for watching the Broadway.com show.
We leave you with Caissie Levy's delightfully high drama performance of Monster from Broadway's Frozen.
See you next week.